Your Olympic hero has arrived. It's true, it's true.
You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another episode of Random Thoughts. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about Cinemassacre, some of the channels that Cinemassacre inspired, as well as some clones and ripoffs, as well as talk about some of my YouTube inspirations, because, you know, it's kind of linked, right? Because, you know, James Rolfe was sort of an inspiration on me. Like, obviously I don't do the same type of content, but he was an inspiration to an extent. Anyway, part of what makes me want to do this is I keep getting, like, a bunch of videos in my recommended about stuff about the downfall of AVGN, the downfall of Cinemassacre, Cinemassacre controversies, Cinemassacre truth, stuff like that. If you don't know, Cinemassacre Truth is a subreddit of people spreading the truth of the behind-the-scenes, the nitty-gritty of Cinemassacre, and talking about, you know, their dirty laundry and things they don't want out. And while it's true that there is some stuff that gets shared on there that is absolutely, like, you know, pointing out things that are true and that people don't know about and stuff like that, and I definitely think there's probably some issues working at Cinemassacre, I think a lot of people are, like, kind of obsessive and harsh on James, which I don't get. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't like the Screenwave guys either, and I definitely think AVGN has gone downhill. But as you guys know, I've defended Mike Matei. I haven't actually done a re-edit of that stream yet, but I have done a video defending Mike Matei as sort of a follow-up to Corbin's original defense of Mike Matei, and Corbin was involved in my defense as well. I don't know, I think a lot of people will blow a lot of little things out of proportion and act like Cinemassacre is like the worst thing ever just because there's been a dip in quality, and there's some corporate practices that I don't like. As far as AVGN, yeah, the episodes have declined in quality. I think that's unquestionable. But you gotta remember, this show's been going for basically 20 years. Like, it started in 2004. It's 2024 now. And with some of the new episodes, you can definitely feel the padding. Like, they padded it out to make it longer, which honestly, in a lot of cases, does make it a lot more boring. I still watch some of the new episodes, but it's not like in the past where I used to just watch them all the time whenever they came out. Now there's still quite a few I haven't seen, and I mean to actually go back and watch them, because AVGN is probably my favorite YouTube series. With the only notable exception being Mumkey's Anime Reviews. Mumkey's Anime Reviews is my favorite YouTube series, but without James Rolfe, there would be no Mumkey's Anime Reviews, because James Rolfe inspired a lot of people, including Mumkey, including Filthy Frank. You know, like, James Rolfe, AVGN, was one of the forefathers of YouTube and what would become, you know, YouTube skit comedy, YouTube review styles, and all sorts of things. And I will admit that it does feel a lot more soulless now with some of the new AVGN content. Like, it's definitely not the same as it was. There's no passion behind it like there used to be most of the time. And that definitely sucks. And James Rolfe has definitely mellowed out a lot more, which is kind of weird when he goes into the character, where he makes the character seem a lot more mellow, and then occasionally has the outburst, whereas, you know, the constant rage was part of what made the character great in the older episodes. But that said, I still like the newer episodes I've seen, just not as much. It hasn't declined to the same degree that I would say like The Simpsons or South Park or Family Guy have. Especially South Park. South Park's the biggest disappointment for me because of how much I loved the show. And obviously I think James's band is pretty fucking stupid, and nobody actually cares about that. He just does that for himself, which I kind of respect. I honestly kind of respect that he doesn't care if people like it. Like, he promotes Rex Viper all the time and nobody gives a shit, which, you know, it's not good, but I respect that he does it anyway because he wants to do it. And again, like I said, I don't like the Screenwave guys. I do like Mike Matei. It does suck that Mike Matei is no longer a part of it, because I feel like, you know, his writing, his gameplay, and his contributions are part of what made early AVGN great. And so not having him, I think, is another detriment to it. But yeah, like I said, though the quality definitely has dipped, I think people are too harsh a lot of the time with their criticism. So that's the main point I wanted to get across, is people act like James is, like, horrible, when really it's just he makes lesser content and is, like, he doesn't write it anymore. Like, he has some other people working on it, which makes it worse, but it's not like he's going out and doing anything actively bad. Like, yeah, there was that whole plagiarism fiasco, but that was one of their writers, that wasn't him. So I think it's weird to just throw it all on James and act like that's the problem. Like, I definitely think the problem is he branched out and made it more of a corporation than just himself like it used to be. But he's been going for so long, I don't entirely think that, like, I think that was inevitable, you know what I mean? He's gotten so big, he's gone on for so long, of course he was going to expand. But anyway, that's really my 2 cents on that drama aspect, because again, James has stayed out of drama pretty well. Like, he's never been really involved in a real controversy himself. So I think it's interesting that he gets a lot of the blame for the declining quality, which, granted, it's his show, yeah, sure, it's his fault in that regard. But it's not like he's a monster, and everyone acts like he is just because he does celebrity cameos and has other people write his show now, and it's worse. But the other thing I wanted to get on was AVGN clones, right? Because, obviously it did cause a big phenomenon because he was such a big thing on YouTube. Obviously there's the Irate Gamer, and there's a bunch of others out there. The Pissed Off Angry Gamer, which is pretty funny. And in like a so bad it's good kind of way. And then there's Game Dude, who made really dumb content that's not good, but I kind of have a soft spot for Game Dude just because of how fucking unhinged he is. Like, Game Dude was a fucking nut. But, out of all the channels that were AVGN inspired, my favorite is probably Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. I don't know if you guys are too familiar with him. He is a little bit more niche. But Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd mostly does, like, Japanese game reviews. Or he did. He doesn't do that anymore. He actually now focuses on game development. He made a game called Violet Wisteria, which, if you don't know, is actually a spiritual successor to the Valis games. But Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd, he lives in Japan, so he's done a lot of Japanese game reviews. And he's reviewed a lot of obscure games. And he has done the most definitive series of videos on Hong Kong 97 out of literally anyone. He literally interviewed the creator, Kowloon Kurosawa. He bought an actual copy of the game on the original floppy disk it was released on. When he talked to the creator, he got the actual history behind the release of the game. He got the gaming magazine that the game was released in. Like, no one has covered Hong Kong 97 anywhere near as well as Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. Like, it's a shame, honestly, that his channel is a lot lesser known, because he's done so much interesting stuff that I constantly use him as a source when I'm talking about Kowloon Kurosawa, who has quickly become one of the most interesting Japanese celebrities to me, because Kowloon Kurosawa is an eccentric enigma that's just like an interesting guy, that just... He has some really shady stuff about him that's also kind of endearing. Like, he's an interesting guy, like I said. Kowloon Kurosawa's, unique. Because, Hong Kong 97 is far from the only game he's made. He's made a bunch. I have two of them. I have Hong Kong 97, and then I have Miniskirt Police, both of which I've streamed. But he also made that game that people, talk about as being like an Aum Shinrikyo game. He made that one, but it was actually done as a parody of them. And he's done a bunch of others that people don't know about, because he would release them, he'd make like 30 copies at a time and release them on floppy disk and give them out to his friends, or sell them to people in the back of obscure magazines. But he also, like, made his career by selling these bootleg devices called Magicoms that let you make floppy disk bootlegs for the Super Famicom, which I assume you all know, but that's the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo. But now, let's shift gears once again to talk about my inspirations. I would say the biggest inspiration on my channel was probably Ashen's, because, my Movies You Probably Never Fucking Heard Of series, kind of stemmed from an idea I got when watching his terrible old games you probably never heard of series. That's kind of how the idea came to be. And if you look at some of my snack reviews and some of my early stuff where I do stuff like that, I always have the camera pointed at the thing, and it's like that. Like, it very clearly inspired by Ashen's. I would say later on, Mumkey was an inspiration to me, and James Rolfe definitely was an inspiration to me, too. He's made me look into other games, and made me want to play, like, other old games, so there's definitely that, too. But yeah, obviously, like I said, I had a couple of topics here. This one just kind of goes all over the place with some semi-connected topics. But I just thought I'd talk about it, talk about how I think people are too harsh on James Rolfe, even though, obviously, there are some creative and business choices that I don't agree with that he's done. Talk a little bit about, AVGN clones. Talk about Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd, who I think is, like, the best channel to be inspired by AVGN. Obviously, there's also channels like JonTron, which were great, although JonTron doesn't really do that much anymore. And then, obviously, I wanted to end off talking about my inspiration. So, there we go. It's a little bit rambly. It goes a little all over the place, but I hope you enjoyed this episode of Random Thoughts. This has been Fugitive Red Eye. Have a good one. Toodles!
What am I watching? I don't know, but I hate it.
Subscribe to Fugitive Red Eye.